I am once again reading a review from my book, Mind and Evolution, as assessed through reviews of major texts. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Evolution and the Humanities by David Holbrook, 1987. Most of Holbrook's book is commentary on the writing of others, chapters on Norman Macbeth, Marjorie Green, Pierre-Paul Grass, Michael Polanyi, Rupert Sheldrake, Richard Dawkins, E.W.F. Tomlin, Theodosius Dobzhansky, Michael Denton, and Jacques Monod, among others. If you think being a member of the humanities is any excuse for failing to grasp the intricacies of evolutionary theory, check out this book. Only at the beginning and the end does he draw on his own experiences of the relation of the humanities to evolutionary theory. He was an accredited member of the humanities. He served as a fellow in King's College, Cambridge, and in Downing College, where he became Director of Studies. He was also respected as a poet, novelist, literary critic, anthologist, commentator on culture, education, and author of several books on writing for school children. In Evolution and the Humanities, he identifies himself primarily as a poet. According to his obituary in The Guardian, he recognized in culture not the Freudian sublimation of natural drives, but a necessary part of our consciousness and the way we search for meaning. A polemical writer of letters to newspapers, he waged an untiring campaign against nihilism in all its forms. His belief that human beings cannot live without a sense of meaning underlies all his work. Of his own opinions, he says, "My critical approach does not deny that evolution has taken place, but it is to say that Darwinian evolutionary theory does not offer anything like an adequate explanation of the origin and nature of life. No religious arguments will be invoked here. The creationist alternative and all the explanation based on God and on the invocation of spiritual forces intervening in the world do not seem to provide an adequate explanation." On the book's opening page of the physicalist account of how we evolved, Neo-Darwinism, he writes, "It has become a stereotype accepted almost without thought, without question, and remains unexamined. Science says, it seems, that life and man are random results of an accident in chemistry. And although this contradicts all that we know of the world and ourselves, it remains the only philosophy of life that seems to be upheld by the one remaining authority in the modern world, science. Week after week, one is reminded by chance remarks and publications that many people accept a certain attitude to life, a metaphysic, coming across the humanities to the humanities from science that can only be menacing to any sense that life can have meaning. I hope this explains how an English specialist came to adventure into debate on evolutionary theory, for the grounds of the myth are in Darwinism. For me, his is the authentic voice of the humanities, entitled to be quoted as an authority. My conclusion is that we urgently need new forms of thinking, new paradigms, new modes of understanding. But until we have these, we must live with awe and ignorance, as the poet does anyway, while there is no factual justification for absurdism or nihilism. Certainly we do not have simply to sit down under the metaphysical implications of conventional scientific theories about the origin and nature of life. Moreover, we must not surrender proper humanist disciplines in the universities, as some urge that we do, to reductionist and mechanistic theories which offer themselves as so exclusive they must be taken to supplant other subjects. An example of this is the attempt of some sociobiologists like Dawkins and E.O. Wilson to suggest that all questions of morality, human nature, and society should now be given over to reductionist biology. We may pursue questions of the nature and meaning of human existence and questions of morality and values in the subjective disciplines without any need to feel that there is a greater, more adequate, and more realistic delineation of the truth about existence in the physical sciences to which we must defer. At the end of the book, he returns to his Jeremiad. From rescuing the humanities from Darwinism, of a suggested revival of the humanities, he said, moreover, this new way of thinking about what it is to be human and what man's place in nature may be requires no less than a reconsideration of what knowledge is, since the reason why we have not made so much progress as we should have done is that we are still too much influenced by the scientific ideas of objectively and the exclusion of all that belongs to poetry and inwardness. In his conclusions, he speaks of a betrayal of Greek civilization when the pursuit of truth was born. Since the 17th century, there has developed a fatal development of attention to the objective realities, split off and divided from the subjective realities, until in the end it is now an aspect of our lives, as here, especially in Cambridge, that those whose disciplines are of the inner life exist alongside deniers of that realm who tell us that consciousness is only chemicals and that the brain is only a computer and that we are only survival machines built by genes. That is, not only is subjective truth split off from science, but science turns aggressively against this area of truth and seeks to bury it altogether. In this assertive naturalism, there is not only a failure to bring objective and subjective together, there are signs of a psychopathological disturbance, displaying a sense of alienation from Mother Earth, often combined with a hatred and fear of existence, life, and being, not least because these cannot be entirely subject to analysis and to triumphant manipulation. Groping for an appropriate response, he quotes Gillian Beer's neat aphorism, placing Darwin's theory neatly within the humanities' bailiwick, a determining fiction by which to read the world. Recalling Kekule's vision of the carbon in inorganic compounds, the benzene ring, as a snake biting its own tail, he says, "What we need now is far better dreams, by which, through the exercise of symbolism in the realm of imaginative power, scientists may penetrate further into the secrets of life, not so much into substance and structure, but into form, with a new sense of time and of wholeness. On the side of the humanities or the subjective disciplines, we must persist certainly in asserting the validity of our concern for being. Not only must we resist the extrapolations from mechanistic science into regions where it has no business to be, we must accept that we must deal with realities not caught in that net. The danger is that under the influence of such scientific theories as Darwinian mechanism, we may be led to feel that whatever we feel, we cannot uphold our own valued, unique being. Speaking for myself as a teacher in the humanities, as will be seen, there are words I want to use which science threatens to deny me. I want to speak of higher things, a gradient in nature, order, harmony, direction, primary consciousness, intelligence, striving, ingenuity, achievement, and aims. The upshot of any exploration of the debate will be, I hope, that these words and the thinking that goes into them are perfectly legitimate. Though he was a reputable scholar, he seems to have encountered problems getting his manuscript accepted. As published, the book is a bottom-of-the-barrel production with no design graces at all, not even running heads, and enough typos to suggest the book was reproduced by typewriter from his handwritten copy, with minimal correction. This indication that Holbrook could find no reputable publisher to publicize his work was seized upon as one more reason for rejecting it in a review of the book published by the National Center for Science Education, dedicated to keeping evolution, Darwinism, in the science classroom, written by Arthur M. Shapiro, professor and vice chairman of the zoology department at the University of California at Davis. Bear in mind from the quotes above how graciously and intelligently Holbrook writes as you hear this sample. I am not sure what makes me angriest about this book, the mediocrity and fuddleness of its argument, its appalling functionalist premise, its repetitive and tedious organization, or the lack of any visible copy editing or proofreading. Such howlers can be counted in the hundreds. The text is about disciplinary paranoia, inferiority complexes, sophistry, and plain old obtuseness. Holbrook wants us to abandon Darwinism and neo-Darwinism in favor of a candid declaration of ignorance, which he thinks is the intellectually honest thing to do. This gives some measure of the reception you can expect if you express doubts about physicalism and its poster child neo-Darwinism within the halls of academe.